And the Federal Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi visited the Safe City headquarters and chaired a special meeting to review the progress of the Islamabad Safe City project, which aims to transform the city into a smart and secure urban space. And the project is designed to enhance safety measures for residents and bring the latest technological advancements to the capital. During his visit, the Interior Minister examined the ongoing beautification and upgradation work at the Safe City headquarters. And he was briefed on the establishment of a new fusion center and an advanced control room that will play a critical role in managing the city's security operations. And these upgrades are part of the initiative to ensure that the Safe City project aligns with modern technological demands. And President Donald Trump will visit China from May 13 to 15, Beijing confirmed on Monday, with the US leader expected to discuss Iran and trade with his Chinese counterpart. Washington and Beijing have been at loggerheads over key issues ranging from trade tariffs to the Middle East war and Taiwan, which China claims as part of its territory.
This Mother's Day, we've rounded up some of our favorite celebrity social media posts about moms. From celebrating their own moms to celebrating their children for making them moms, some were bursting with love, while others were more quiet in their joy, and all of them touched our hearts.
The Moulton District Administration has approved 5 temporary cattle sale points across the city and surrounding areas ahead of Eid ul-Adha. According to a notification issued by Deputy Commissioner Nauman Sadiq, cattle markets will be established in Fatima Jinnah Town, Jaswant Gar, Shujabjad, and Jalalpur Pirwala. The approved locations also include separate cattle and camel markets at Jaswant Gar.
Australia will use the upcoming white ball tours of Pakistan and Bangladesh to test their depth after naming squads featuring 3 potential debutants. Selectors said on Monday all-rounder Liam Scott has been included in the ODI squads for Pakistan and Bangladesh, with Victoria batter Ollie Peake joining him in the Pakistan squad. Clothes seller Lata Solanki used to face a devastating choice when India's summer heat hit dangerous levels: risk her health going door to door for sales or lose her income. But now the 42-year-old is part of an insurance scheme that pays out when temperatures hit a threshold, so she can stay home without jeopardizing her finances.
The Pakistan Meteorological Department, PMD, has issued an alert for glacial lake outburst floods. GLOF for Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Gilgit-Baltistan, it emerged on Monday. According to the alert issued by the PMD on Sunday night, a moderate westerly wave was expected to enter the upper regions of the country. It said that the weather system was expected to hit KP and extend to Gilgit-Baltistan by Monday.
Thailand's former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra has been released from a prison in Bangkok after spending 8 months of a 1-year sentence there over a corruption-related charge. Hundreds of people, including the 76-year-old billionaire's family and political allies, greeted him on Monday, chanting, "We love Thaksin," as he left the Klong Prem Central Prison.
The government is considering reducing the income tax burden on salaried individuals in the upcoming budget 2026 to 27, while keeping salaries and pensions unchanged. According to a report by Dawn, Finance Minister Mohammad Aurangzeb is in favor of lowering tax rates for salaried individuals and, if possible, increasing the taxable income threshold in recognition of the segment's outsized contribution to tax collection compared with other sectors such as retail, wholesale, exports, and real estate.
Oil prices rallied on Monday. Trump said Iran's response to a US proposal was unacceptable, raising supply fears as the Strait of Hormuz stayed largely closed. Brent crude futures climbed $4.16 or 4.11% to 105.45 a barrel at $3.40. US West Texas Intermediate was at $99.80 a barrel, up $4.38 or 4.59 PC. Karachi, 4 officials of District Jail Malé were booked on Sunday over charges of intentional omission and negligence as an under-trial prisoner, UTP, allegedly involved in the recent kidnapping and murder of a trader, escaped from the prison on Saturday. Police said Shalatif Town show Mumtaz Marwat said that a special programme had been arranged inside the prison on Saturday in connection with Marka IHAC. Later, when the jail administration carried out a head count of the inmates, one prisoner, namely Syed Tahir Naveed alias Polka, was missing.
Global politics is hurtling towards a multipolar system, the likes of which we haven't seen since the late 20th century. Several indicators bear this out. The global hegemon for the past 4 decades, the US, is experiencing a decline in its ability and willingness to project power outwards, as seen in its continued failure in Eastern Europe and the Persian Gulf, and in the increased reluctance and reticence of its allies to pick up its slack. Much of this decline stems from internal structural pressures, destabilizing inequality, lopsided growth and investment confined to finance and IT, polarized elite factionalism, and a turn to racist nativism and insularity as the response to these problems. In the rest of the world, China's stature as the premier industrial power remains uncontested, and its role as a provider of military prowess is growing rapidly. Coupled with Chinese liquidity-generating debt and investment-based infrastructure partnerships in many parts of the world, the demand for foreign patronage and support is being met by a new supplier.
The US-Israel war on Iran may not be over, but it has already underscored major changes in the geopolitical order. Whereas during earlier regime change operations, the US and other Western states were largely able to go in, heavily bomb foes and leave countries such as Afghanistan and Iraq in ruins, the Iranian ruling establishment has proven a tougher nut to crack. Though the US and Israel have caused immense damage where human lives and property are concerned, and many top Iranian political leaders and generals have been killed, the Islamic Republic has not fallen. Despite internal fissures before the war, even many of those Iranians critical of their rulers have rallied around their flag in the face of foreign aggression.
And oil prices rose in Monday morning trade in Asia after President Donald Trump said Iran's response to US proposals to end the war was totally unacceptable. Tehran sent its response via Pakistan, which has served as a mediator between the two sides, calling for an immediate end to the conflict and guarantees of no further US-Israeli attacks on Iran, according to Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency.
The global economic landscape of early 2026 presents a compelling duality. The metrics of nominal value and purchasing power have diverged, defining 2 distinct economic realities. As of the first quarter of 2026, the United States remains the world's largest economy in nominal terms, underpinned by a resilient domestic market and the residual effects of inflation.
And Islamabad. Foreign economic assistance FE inflows to Pakistan surged by almost 1% to 6,594 BN in the first 3 quarters, July-March, of the current fiscal year, and mainly on the back of program support from the International Monetary Fund, IMF. Total inflows, excluding IMF disbursements, comprising both loans and grants, amounted to $6 and 594 BN during the first 9 months of the current fiscal year, up from 5,007 BN in the same period last year, reflecting an increase of 19.7 PC. Inflows in March alone stood at 731.3 meters and compared to 692 meters in February and 555 in the corresponding month last year, marking a 32 PC increase.
Quetta, the Balochistan National Party, BNP, has strongly criticized recent statements made by what it described as political wanderers, saying they should reflect on their own political history as they continue to change locations, loyalties, and parties every few months. In a statement, the party defended its chief, Sardar Akhtar Mengal, as a dignified, ideological, and national leader who had spent his entire political life struggling for the rights, identity, and dignity of the Baloch nation. These days and nights she stays at home in Tehran, waiting for the sound of aircraft, bombs, for news or no news of friends in detention. Shirin, not her real name, is constantly anxious. She is showing signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. Her left hand is no longer fully functional. Whenever I hear a disturbing sound, my body reacts involuntarily. The psychological pressure that entered my mind has numbed this part of my left hand. It doesn't work. I still have anxiety that the war might start again, and that is a terrifying thing.
The fall may not have been deep, but the landing has been hard. A second trophyless season for Real Madrid, the most successful La Liga and Champions League club, was confirmed in the worst way possible. A defeat at Barcelona, who, with their win, defended the Spanish title. In the months before the United States launched a January raid to capture former Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, Venezuela and the US participated in Qatar-mediated talks on what the country might look like if Maduro stepped down. Yet the vision for a post-Maduro Venezuela discussed in the talks never touched on a role for prominent opposition leader and Nobel Peace Prize laureate Maria Corina Machado, according to a Qatari source who spoke with CNN.
And the same tiny tungsten cubes that spray out of Israeli bombs, causing devastating internal injuries to people in Gaza, are being found in wounded civilians in Lebanon, war surgeon Dr. Tahir Mohammed says. He draws parallels between what Israel is doing in both places and describes the weapons as indiscriminate.
Donald Trump is set to arrive in Beijing on Wednesday evening to discuss the Iran war and other issues with his Chinese counterpart President Xi Jinping. White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly said an opening ceremony and meeting will be on Thursday morning and the trip will conclude on Friday. The US plans to host the Chinese leader during a reciprocal visit later this year.
And Barcelona clinched their 29th La Liga title with a 2-0 Clásico victory over bitter rivals Real Madrid to open an unassailable 14-point lead, the top of the table with 3 games remaining. Marcus Rashford and Ferran Torres struck in the first half on Sunday to help Hansi Flick's side clinch La Liga in consecutive years, while consigning Madrid to a trophyless season.
How will work setups change if we spend more and more time talking to our computers? A recent feature in the Wall Street Journal looks at the rising popularity of dictation apps like Whisper, especially now that they can be connected to vibe coding tools, and what that might mean for office etiquette. One VC said that visiting startup offices now feels like stepping into a high-end call centre. And Gusto co-founder Edward Kim is apparently telling his team that in the future, offices will sound more like a sales floor. As someone still scarred from the time his desk was briefly relocated to a sales floor, let me say, oh no!
A passenger of a cruise ship that was struck by an outbreak of hantavirus has shown symptoms of the disease while being repatriated to France. The country's prime minister has said Sébastien Lecornu said the French national developed symptoms while on a chartered flight from Tenerife to Paris, and so all 5 evacuated from the MV Hondius had been immediately placed in strict isolation until further notice.
And Mohammed Assassa had only just returned home after burying his 80-year-old father Hussein when several children ran into the house shouting, "The settlers are digging up the grave." In the small village of Assassa near Jenin in the West Bank, from which the family patriarch took his name, Hussein had been a highly regarded figure before his death last Friday from natural causes. And prominent Jewish American leader and Israel defender Abraham Abe Foxman has died at age 86. The Anti-Defamation League, the advocacy group he led for 28 years, confirmed his death on Sunday, calling him an outspoken, passionate and tireless advocate for the Jewish people and Israel.
Fictional portrayals of artificial intelligence can have a real effect on AI models, according to Anthropic. Last year, the company said that during pre-release tests involving a fictional company, Claude before would often try to blackmail engineers to avoid being replaced by another system. Anthropic later published research suggesting that models from other companies had similar issues with agentic misalignment. Arsenal cleared arguably the most dangerous remaining obstacle in their path to the Premier League title by the skin of their teeth as Leandro Trossard's late goal secured a dramatic 1-0 win at West Ham United to restore their 5-point lead on Sunday. The visitors were living dangerously at the London Stadium, but Trossard guided home a low shot from Martin Odegaard's pass in the 83rd minute to spark delirium amongst the Arsenal fans and despair in the home ranks. Since around 8 a.m. this morning, the little boat ferrying passengers from the MV Hondius to shore has been shuttling back and forth. The 100 or so journalists parked not far from the port of Granadilla have watched a steady and carefully coordinated ballet as the boat transports 5 passengers at a time to the port that has finally agreed to take them in. This followed 5 weeks at sea and nearly 10 days of uncertainty and fear since the Andes strain of the hantavirus was identified on board the ship.